Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account from the relationship advice subreddit, and it says, on our anniversary, my 27 male, wife 27 female, and I were intimate. And she said another man's name during sex. He's a mutual friend. I'm 27 male in a fight with my wife 27 female after an incident during intimacy. For context, we're high school sweethearts, married for 6 years. We have a child, 3 male, and we've been through a lot together. I love her deeply. Our marriage is in a rough patch. Our quality time as a couple is struggling. We're in counseling. We're working on making time for each other and reaffirming our bond. That's our current focus in counseling, and we're assigned intimacy exercises. Part of these exercises is for us to make a consistent, conscious effort for each other. We had a staycation to celebrate our anniversary, while our son spent the weekend at his grandparents'. The trip was largely nice, and we got to better focus on each other. The night of our anniversary, we were cuddling, and it turned into more. My wife initiated. She was really into it and expressive, and then out of nowhere, she moaned another man's name who's in our friend group. We stopped immediately. There was no mistaking what she said. She looked stunned before recovering and treating it like texting a typo or something. When I questioned why she'd say another guy's name, let alone one of our friends, she swore it meant nothing and that she was just consumed with what I was doing to her. I couldn't buy it. I don't believe it meant nothing. Not the passionate way she said it. I believe she was fantasizing about him while being with me. She insisted it wasn't like that and it was only a slip of the tongue. I asked why his name in particular. First she didn't know, then said maybe because she was replying to his text earlier in the group chat. When I pushed back, she got defensive. She said I was making something out of nothing and how it didn't need to ruin our anniversary. I told her nothing she was saying was reaching me and I needed some time. She tried kissing me and initiating again like nothing had happened, but I turned her down. The incident put a damper on the rest of the trip. We haven't been intimate since, and any steps we've made forward with our exercises have taken a significant leap back. We're in a cycle of awkward silence, even in front of our son, or her ignoring the elephant in the room. She's being extra affectionate now, but I can't shake what's happened. I never thought twice about their friendship, but now I'm seeing past interactions differently. I love my wife. She and our son mean the world to me. I've been committed to working on our marriage, but I'm at a loss here. I feel my wife isn't being honest and is attempting to rug sweep by pouring on affection. I'm left reconsidering everything. I don't know how to navigate forward. I need outside perspectives. The top commenter on this one said, definitely need to save conversations on this for your counseling sessions. I highly recommend using a therapist certified in the Gottman method. Scott Owen says, and the way the wife responds to him telling the counselor will say a lot about where she is in all of this and whether she's taking it seriously or just going through the motions. Mama 2 Grace says, okay, if this happened with my partner, the first place my head would go immediately would be he's having an affair. But being on the outside, even though an affair is still on my list of possibilities, I don't think affair is the only logical answer. My other logical conclusion isn't very pretty either though. But it's happened that people are fantasizing about someone else. So she may just have the hots for this dude and thinking of him gets her going, and she was just so in her own head picturing him that she got lost in her own moment and it slipped out. For me, this option would still be grounds for me to take a step back and question a lot. Even thinking of my partner fantasizing about a friend or having sex with me makes me want to throw up. So I 100% can understand why this has messed you up so bad. I don't think any response is going to make you feel better, honestly. It happened, that's going to be a hard one to forget. Man, I wish I had advice, but knowing how it'd make me feel, I got nothing. I believe will make this feel any better for you. Would absolutely check your phone records to see if they're communicating more than they should be. That would definitely be my first move. Sheepskin says, Reddit is bananas. There was a post here the other day by a guy who fantasized about another woman while having sex with his wife, and it was the best sex they had ever had. He was racked with guilt and was asking if he should confess. Tons of commenters saying that they've done it. It's not a big deal. It's just a fantasy. Don't borrow trouble by telling the wife, etc. I'm not saying that to convince you to react one way or another. How you feel is how you feel, but I do say it to caution you against taking advice from Reddit, because what you'll get tends to be completely arbitrary, and many commenters are influenced by what they read from others, and it snowballs. You're already in counseling with your wife. Take this there and ignore whatever you read from people who say, "It's no big deal, I fantasize about someone else every time I have sex with my partner, lol," or "Man, I could never get past this, she clearly wants that guy and it's only a matter of time before she cheats." Get out while you're still young. We don't have the answers you need. Talk to your wife and a counselor. And obviously that last commenter was pretty much spot on, but the way I felt during it, the rug sweeping in itself and not acknowledging how hurt he was just madness to me. It was like, first she denied it like, it meant absolutely nothing. Then it was making excuses, was just replying to his text and getting defensive. You're making something out of nothing, and then just trying to, sexually initiate again after knowing he's hurt. It did feel very manipulative to me. And I'd be lying myself if I was to say that that wouldn't hurt me, because it would. But OP comes in with her update and says, "Thanks to everyone who reached out. I, 27 male, couldn't reply to everything, but the outside perspectives helped. A general consensus was that my wife, 27 female, and I's issue should be tackled in therapy. I knew that's what I should have done, but I delayed. I was too embarrassed. The thought of bringing up what happened in counseling made it worse, but I knew it needed to be done. My wife didn't initially take kindly to it. She was defensive and accused me of throwing her under the bus. I disagreed. I wouldn't throw her under the bus either. The truth is, we never arranged topics in therapy beforehand. We argued over each other. Our therapist came through as a referee. She called for a timeout for us to recollect and reflect on the objective being working towards a solution, not going at each other. We were able to actually talk once things cooled down. My wife was asked how she would feel if the roles were reversed. She admitted if I'd said another woman's name while we were having sex and on our anniversary, she wouldn't have handled it well at all. She apologized for downplaying my feelings. While I appreciated her acknowledgement, I still thought she wasn't honest about why she said the guy's name. So I pressed. She said she didn't want to hurt me more than she already did. I told her she was hurting me by lying. She confessed that during a stint where we weren't having sex, she engaged in fantasies to satisfy herself. One of them was our friend. I knew the stint she was talking about. Intimacy as a whole has been a struggle, but there was a point where we were abstinent sexually. We weren't even sharing a bed at the time. We'd argue, then leave to separate rooms. Or our son, 3 male, would share the bed with us. I asked how long she'd been fantasizing about him. She said off and on. It wasn't a constant fantasy. It wasn't necessarily about him, but more about the taboo. She swore that the fantasies meant nothing. They were just scenarios to get her there and nothing she would ever actually want. It was tough, but I tried hearing her out instead of shutting down. Arguing wasn't getting us anywhere either. I can't relate to her about this. She's always been good enough for me during good and bad times. I was always focused on her during intimacy. I told her that while I knew our marriage wasn't perfect, I thought we're getting to a better place and we were engaging in various forms of intimacy again. She claims she doesn't indulge the fantasies anymore. I called bull because she did that on her anniversary of all days. She insisted his name was only a slip of the tongue because she was replying to his text in the group thread that day. She said she was consumed with what I was doing to her, and in the heat of the moment, his name slipped out. When I asked why she didn't tell me all of this after the incident, she said she felt guilty and afraid for our marriage. She said our marriage was already in a state of recovery, and she didn't want to blow everything up over a stupid mistake. She kept saying she doesn't want him or anyone else. She only wants to be with me, and that's the whole reason why she's fighting for our marriage. The session was a lot. I was mostly quiet after she finished. She asked me to please say something, but all I could say was I needed some time. I'm still sorting through how I feel. I believe she was more truthful, but it's difficult. Nor do I see things between her and our friend the same. I would like to work on my marriage. My wife and our son mean the world to me. I want the best solution for everyone involved. Thank you again to everyone, and I appreciate the support. The top commenter came from Art Needs More Floof, who said, I think next thing you need to do is schedule another therapy session and discuss tools for rebuilding trust. At this point, you bring up your trust was shook because she kept trickle-truthing, and how can you know she isn't hiding more from you? That you don't want to distrust her, but you don't know how to rebuild. Allow me to be blunt about some uncomfortable truths. Everyone fantasizes. It is if and how we act on our fantasies, and if we allow our fantasies to impact our real life, that matters. Keep your focus on her behavior, not her fantasies. Trust is similar to reputation, in that once it is broken, it is hard to rebuild, but it can be rebuilt. Trust is always a leap of faith. It is built on little acts of consistent, reliable behavior, but at its heart, it's a leap of faith. The little voices in your head, OP, the ones going, but what if she's secretly in love with friend? But what if she thinks he's sexier than me, etc.? Yes, those voices. Nothing your wife can say or do will be able to silence those voices. That is a battle for you and you alone. You need to figure out how to self-soothe those voices. Brick Russell says, well, that's the problem with trickle-truthing. There's no way to know when she stops trickling and when she's telling the truth. And Dan the Pepperman says, I didn't do it. I did, but it was just a fantasy. I don't fantasize anymore. I do fantasize, but it doesn't mean I want him. I want him, but won't do anything. I did something on our struggle time, but it was just hanging out. And so on. And there was a lot of doubt in the comments about her side of things and just not believing her. And I say it a lot in these stories, but like that one commenter said, once the trust is gone, I don't know, I think I'd find that really difficult to rebuild. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm just saying for myself, it's hard to unsee or unhear what was said in this situation. But what do you guys make of this one? Put yourself in OP's shoes. How would you feel about it? How would you deal with it? Could you move past it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, before we do get into the next story, there is a trigger warning on it of child death. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. This story is from the Today I Fucked Up subreddit from Physical Device 1396. And it says, Today I fucked up by calling a family's recently deceased son a fucking moron. It starts, I didn't realize how long this story is until I typed it out, so sorry for the long read. For context, I'm a mailman who works out of the Midwest. I'd have to tell my fellow carriers that in this area, and the past 3 months have been rough. Not only has my city had snowed for 3 weeks straight now, but Christmas package volume hasn't gone down very much. I've been working from 8 AM to 8 PM Monday through Saturday for these 3 months just to keep my head up with the volume. It's also been very cold, and all around I've been extremely stressed out and tired. Well, yesterday was no different. As I was told first thing in the morning that I had 2 routes I had to get done on my own, plus any extra packages when I got back. Not only that, but my ProMaster, a bigger mail truck, had been taken on Sunday for maintenance, and I had to take a much smaller Metris car. This means I have much less space for all the mail and packages, but Metris cannot drive through any amount of snow. Not joking, a light dusting on the road will result in you getting stuck. So I was already tired and very frustrated. Fast forward to halfway through my day, and I'm delivering packages to a nicer neighborhood. I see the house that I'm dropping a package at doesn't have any open spots to park on the street, except for in front of their neighbor's fairly long driveway. It's not uncommon for us carriers to block a driveway for a minute just to drop off a package, so I don't think anything of it. Well, I couldn't see the end of the driveway due to the other cars, and as I turned to park, I realized that at the end of their driveway is a pretty large pile of snow. I tried to brake and turn, but it was too late. I land right in the middle of this snow pile, completely stuck. I try in vain to get myself out, but for safety reasons we aren't allowed to dig ourselves out. So I have to call the office to get a tow truck, which I'm told might take an hour to get there. This means I'll have to stay an extra hour to get the rest of the packages delivered. Pretty obviously, I'm absolutely livid at this point, cursing up a storm in my car. Well, down the driveway comes a man who doesn't look very happy. He throws up his arms in that "what the fuck you doing" pose, which just makes me more mad. I get out and snap at him, "Can I help you?" And he snaps back at me with a "what are you doing blocking my driveway?" And this is where I fucked up. I'm usually very calm and polite with customers, no matter how rude they are to me. But today I just couldn't control myself, and I say, well, it looks like someone was too lazy to shovel the snow on their driveway into their yard, and instead piled it in the street. The man gets red in the face and looks like he's going to scream at me, but takes a deep breath and says, "My son shoveled this for me." Without even thinking about it, respond, "Well, your son is a fucking moron." I again expect him to yell at me, which in hindsight is exactly what I wanted him to do. Instead, he stumbles back like I struck him, and I see tears start to pour from his eyes. He immediately turns and half runs up the driveway, and I can see he's sobbing. I instantly feel confused and extremely guilty because, mailman or not, there was no reason for me to speak to him that way. So pretty quickly, I follow him up the driveway, where I see their cars parked. On both sides of the back windshields is a sticker of a boy, with text on top and bottom that say, using fake name, "Rest in peace Riley, we'll miss you, 2008 to 2025. I feel like I was slapped in the face. Their child had passed 2 weeks ago. I walk to their door in a daze and knock. Both parents answer, a mix of fury and anguish on their faces. That's when the stress and exhaustion from the past 3 months and the intense guilt I was feeling hit me like a brick wall. I dropped to my knees and began to cry, trying to tell them I was sorry in between sobs. To my astonishment, both parents dropped next to me, wrapped me in a hug and started to cry with me. We stayed like that for a few minutes until I got my crying under control, and I told them why I was so angry and how sorry I was. The dad put his hand on my shoulder and told me he forgave me, which brought on more tears. We introduced ourselves and talked for a bit, but eventually I had to go wait for the tow truck in my car. But as I was waiting, they both came out with winter gear and snow shovels. They were offering to dig me out, which I vehemently refused. I told them I didn't deserve all their help, but the mother told me, "I cleaned up my son's messes for 16 years because I'm his mother. That doesn't stop just because he's passed," which caused me to cry even more. They eventually got me out and I exchanged phone numbers with them and told them I'd invite them over for dinner later this week. They accepted and now my wife are going to cook them a veritable feast this coming Saturday. Oh bloody hell, those bloody onion ninjas are around again. And this is just one of those stories for me where it's just humans being human. No, we have our emotions and sometimes they get the better of us, whether they're good or bad or whatever. And there was a lot of compassion from both sides here. Opie recognizing how he'd upset this person, following him up the driveway, apologizing to them being forgiving, and then coming out to help him. Oh, don't get me started. I can feel myself welling up again. But the top commenter said on the back of this one, "A mistake done when in a stressed day pales in comparison to the immensity of your soul in being able to sympathize and share your heart with them. You're a good and kind person, OP. Not everyone would think about the dad who went back home crying. You done good in the end, and that is what matters." So, about a week or so later, OP did update the post and said, "First things first, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who posted love and support on the original post. I apologize for not responding to any comments. I really thought I was going to get torn up in the comments, so I muted the post right after I posted it. I wasn't going to post the story in the first place, but a friend of mine told me about this sub and told me people would love to hear the story. I'll be more active on the post. Now, as for an actual update, the parents did have dinner with my wife and I last night, and they're absolutely wonderful people. They, 40 and 42, are quite a bit older than my wife, 28, and I, 27, but that didn't matter in the slightest. We had my family's famous goulash with a very nice bottle of wine they brought with them, and talked almost the whole night. At one point I did work up the courage to tell them about the post, and they were a bit apprehensive at first. But once I read some of the wonderful comments you all had wrote, I did not read them the absolutely disgusting comments some people left. They felt absolutely blessed that so many were supportive of their family and our new friendship. The father did have something he wanted me to include in this update. Before he had a son, he was a lot like me. Very quick to anger, prone to flying off the handle if he was having a bad day. When he had his son, he got a bit better, but he was still an angry person overall. When his son died, he had an absolute meltdown and said some very hurtful things to family members who were trying to be supportive. He's going to feel guilty about that forever and made a promise to both his wife and son that he would keep his anger under control. Well then, along comes me, his first real test of his new promise. He told me he genuinely believes that his son sent me as a real test to the promise he made him. He encourages everyone to do the same, to approach others with compassion and kindness before anger, as none of us truly know what battles everyone around us is fighting. Some of the comments on that one says, "This is the most beautiful update to a Today I Fucked Up I've ever seen on here. I'm glad that the moment of anger turned into something beautiful. I'm not a believer in fate or what have you, but if there ever was a case to be made for some things really do happen for a reason, it's this. Thank you for updating. I've been thinking about that post and it's amazing to see that you've connected like this and forged a friendship. My faith in the kindness of humanity has been restored on this one." Opie says thank you so much. I'm also not a huge believer in fate, but I'm definitely having some second thoughts as well. Commenter says, "I'm just so glad there was room for expansion, forgiveness, healing, and connection. I empathized, my favorite sin, with so many aspects of both sides of your original post. You and the dad, the anger, having to choke down the shit we're being handed, the weight of grief, etc. What a light to shine on the human condition and how it can triumph. I love this for all of you." Opie says thank you. The whole experience is going to remain at the forefront of my mind for the rest of my life, and I hope to continue spreading compassion everywhere I go. And one more comment who says, "This is amazing, and I'm so happy for all involved. Also, can you share the goulash recipe, or is it a family secret?" And Opie responds saying thank you, and I'm sorry to say, it is a family secret. It's much too powerful to be shared with the world. Let's not read another story and taint it. But what do you guys make of this situation? Like Opie said, it's always interesting because you never know what someone's going through. Sure, it's not an excuse to be an arse to one another, etc., etc., but sometimes we are human, and, you know, the way that Opie went to apologize for what happened and the way they made a connection because of it is something really special. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.